Hey, everybody, this is Chaz and John Fisher with Fisher Blades, and we are sitting down today with a good friend of ours, Daniel Irving of 411 Outdoors, to talk to him about his channel and some of the cool stuff he's doing on the channel. I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit about you and how you grew up and where you grew up and what it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
just to sort of set the stage.
How'd you get here?
Oh man, if it were ever a long story, but I'll do my best to condense it. I grew up in Ruffin, North Carolina. I was raised out in the middle of nowhere. My family lived on about 10 acres off the beaten path. And I come from a pretty good sized family. I have three other siblings. And we were a big time musical family. My first passion in life before I got into any form of martial arts was music. And I did music with my older brother. I was in and out of several bands. I guess I was around 14 years old when I developed a massive interest in martial arts. I was kind of a sports reject. I had tried out for the baseball team. I didn't know at the time that I needed corrective lenses until he hit a pop fly. Somebody hit a pop fly to me, and it landed 10 feet in front of me. I knew I was getting cut. I knew I wasn't going to make it. But I got cut from the baseball team, and it was kind of disheartening. I just didn't feel like I could fit into any sport. I tried to get into sports because I had a cousin that I was really in tight with, and I wanted to be like him. He was a big sports fanatic, but interestingly enough, I was watching a movie. I was watching the Jean-Claude film Bloodsport. I watched that year. And I know Bloodsport, the whole movie is an exaggeration of the truth.
I thought that was a documentary.
Yeah, it was a lot more truth came out about Bloodsport. When I watched that movie, something connected. I think it was just the way the sacredness of the way martial arts was presented, and then in that film, you got to see all of these different styles, and up until that point, nobody knew about Muay Thai. Yeah, that's how Muay Thai got introduced to the West. And I just think that film inspired me to want to get involved. So I started doing my research, and I found a local karate academy that was kind of an MMA academy, which is rare. Hard to find a karate academy that also does wrestling, also does some jujitsu, and it was doing a lot of Muay Thai once you reached a certain belt in karate. And it was a very, very unique place. And that's where I got my start as a whole,
And
night
that
after
was in North
night.
Carolina.
That was in North Carolina in Reidsville, Universal Karate Academy, which eventually became Universal Kickboxing Academy a little bit later on. And they just really kept expanding. I was taking martial arts about the time that the UFC hit the scene. I was taking martial arts during the time the first UFC came out. And it really started changing the way people were training because they saw, the effectiveness of Jiu-Jitsu 101. And that's kind of how it got started. And I ended up taking my training to more of a private community a few years after getting started there because we were we were beating each other up pretty good behind the scenes at my own place. Some people could call it my own local street beefs. We weren't quite scrapping it out just like that, but we were going pretty hard. And we did that for a few years. And then life just kind of took off. And I had a long break from training, actually, a long break from martial arts training. But I really, really got like doubly passionate about it again, as far as wanting to be a spokesman and wanting to talk to the world about it, like around 2020. It was a
Mhm.
long break. 2020 was a chaotic year. I watched a woman get picked up in it was like a street riot scenario that was going on. And I saw this woman trying to get to her car, and a couple of guys jumped her. It was just some live footage being, filmed with a phone camera. And one of the guys picked this woman up who probably wasn't but 125 pounds, and he slammed her on the ground, like suplexed her on the ground, like full contact. And when I saw that, I don't know, that was really all I needed to get motivated again to train even more, but to really start talking to people about the world and about preparation. I guess for years I just didn't pay attention to things. I was Going through my life, I worked in the banking industry for a long time, and then I did mortgage underwriting and everything. And I just was wrapped up in raising my young family. But by this point in time, my girls were starting to grow up a little bit, and I was starting to have a little more freedom to venture out.
What system did you go back to when you started training again? What did you start training in?
I started getting involved really in a lot of things. I got a group of people together that had martial arts experience. A couple of guys that trained at a local MMA place. They were young, a lot of the young students that were training in a local MMA academy. We just got together and started doing Muay Thai drills and stuff again, mostly just Muay Thai with the mitts, and just started training. I actually started training some of the younger students. I actually work as well in youth ministry. So I work in youth ministry as well, and I was training some of the young students there, and I ended up meeting a young man who was into MMA at a very young age, another young lady who was really deep into MMA, and we just started training together, trained Muay Thai together for a long time. And once I started getting into the knife world, that's when I started really doubling down and kind of focusing on that. Once I got into the channel, it really became a lot about knives and that area pretty much. I never officially took FMA. I never took like Filipino martial arts. We only worked with a lot of the basics at the karate academy that I was training at years ago, and it just kind of stuck with me. And we actually were doing knife drills with this other group of kids. We would break off and do like some real world scenario training, knife versus gun type of things, airsoft pistols, quick draw, seeing how quick you can get on the target if somebody's coming after you. Just all kinds of creative ways just to get things going again.
So you mentioned your channel. When did you start your channel?
The channel came about 2021, around April of 2021. I was about a year before the channel. I was diving back into all of these things, trying to figure out which angle I wanted to go. And I don't know, the way the world was going at that time, it just was so much therapy for me to get out here in the neighborhood and just throw things, shoot things. And because I live in a development, I've got people, I got houses. It's a county neighborhood. You're actually allowed to shoot out here. I just don't shoot 9mm and things in my backyard. I just started doing things like archery and knives and tomahawks and slings. And I would do my firearm drill training with my CO2 pistol that's got a little bit of blowback and
When
things
you
like that.
when you started your channel, what was your idea behind it? What were you trying to achieve?
I think I was experimenting more than anything. I wanted to create an environment where I could talk about gear and demonstrate the gear. That was the main thing I wanted to do, was like, here's the knife. Now let's do different things with it. Let's see what it can do. Or here's this bow. Let's shoot the bow. Just all the conversations that existed around the specifications of each product and its capabilities. That was pretty much where I lived for a good 2.5, 3 years. The first 2.5, 3 years. And it really just started to seem like an oversaturated market. And I started finding myself wanting more. And I was like, I want to have deeper conversations with people about, being aware and strategies for being able to defend themselves. But I had my doubts. I had my doubts as to whether or not I was qualified to do that. But then I thought to myself, well, this is what I'm living out every day. This is what I'm doing every day for myself personally. And I'm still alive to tell about it. And I might as well start passing on what I know. I've never wanted to come across as the know-it-all, but I've wanted to be a humble source of communication of what I believed was working for me.
If I'm not mistaken, you're doing some Brazilian jiu-jitsu right now, right?
Yes. Yeah, I started that back in April. Jiu-jitsu was the one thing that was ultimately foreign to me. I've, trained heavily in American freestyle, Muay Thai. I've even had a decent amount of regular boxing training and some wrestling training and a lot of opportunities to wrestle, not on wrestling teams, but with training partners and things like that. And that's the most exhausting of them all. Wrestling shape and being able to wrestle was the most exhausting part of training I probably ever experienced. I'll give you an example. If a person has never trained in jujitsu and they've never learned about how to frame out, how to shrimp out, all these kinds of things, if you get a good side control hold on your average bear who's never been on his back and he's never grappled with anybody, he's not going anywhere. When you
Mm-hmm.
get into jiu-jitsu, you learn how to get your frames in and you learn how to shrimp, how to create space, because on the top you're taking away space, but on the bottom you're creating space. And that's the battle that goes down in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's really, really tough.
That's
It's
very
really
cool. That's very cool. I have a lot of respect for those guys and for you for doing it. You talked about a shift that you made on your channel from maybe being more gear oriented to being more what I would call tactically oriented, because really with my terminology, you're talking about the tactics of how you live life and how to be
yeah.
safe and secure in that daily life. What were some of the things that made you make that shift? And did you do it consciously, or did you just start kind of drifting into it?
Yeah, I was getting tired of what I was doing, and I was worried about that because I wanted this to be the long run. It has always been my dream to venture out into a creative outlet that would always be, ever growing and evolving and enjoyable to me. I've always wanted something like this, but I started feeling, and I don't want to offend people who review knife after knife after knife after knife. I'm not speaking ill of people who do that. I personally just started feeling a little bit silly talking about one piece of gear after another.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times your audience starts to believe that they start wanting to know, well, what do you actually use? What do
Mm-hmm.
you actually like? What is it that works for you every day? And I just didn't want to keep pushing product after product after product. And I really started to feel like I was being backed in a corner, and the engagement wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a worldwide kind of a gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it just started feeling, again, I feel terrible saying that because I don't, if somebody loves to review gear and they love to review product, man, God bless them. I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. I just started feeling like that I wasn't being true to who I was, who was more of a minimalist, and
Mm-hmm.
carry that gear and get to know that gear and to be able to speak to that gear in day-to-day life, in day-to-day. That's
Well,
why I could make a million videos about the Beckwith. I could make a whole channel about the Beckwith just because of how much it's benefited me as far as my
Yeah.
carry and the training that I've developed around it.
Yeah.
well, Daniel, in today's world, talking about YouTube and the gear reviews, there's a psychology today of like you get the gear and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
It's with prepping, it's with tactical. Oh, you
Yeah.
get the knife, you get the gun that's the good gun, and you're covered. No, 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 no. You're just starting. You need to train with that weapon. When you made that switch, and even when you're doing reviews, watching your videos, it's the knowledge that comes across to me, and that's what got us so interested in your channel and you, is that your ability to, even in a product review, talk about the practicality of the knife or the tool.
Yeah. I always wanted to go deeper, and I think really the desire to move away from just products was the ability to have deeper conversation. I didn't know how it was going to go. I struck out one day and made a video about helping older people. It was just something came to mind, helping older people who didn't have the same youth and vitality, what self-protection for them looks like and what that world looks like. And that video blew up, and it was very telling that I think I have a chance here to start talking about deeper issues. I like to go as deep as I can. I love the deeper conversations of life, and um, that to me is what drives me. I've been through a lot of various bouts of struggle in my life through various things. I've dealt with a lot of pain in life and come through a lot of things. And when you do that, I don't know, it makes you see things differently. Pain really does produce a lot of things, and I can speak from a lot of pain when I see something happening to people, tragedies happening to people. I really feel a burden, and I think that burden comes out in my videos, and I use that. I was just like, I know there's more to my channel than just talking about one product after another.
Well, I'm really glad that you made that transition. And funny enough, and I think I've mentioned it to you, that video stuck in my head. Not only because
Awesome.
yes, I'm getting older, and I have to start considering I'm not, super buff older brother. I'm just a regular dude that has to think about getting old and how I'm going to defend myself. But that struck me too, and it did, because it's such a practical thing. And even if we aren't old ourselves, we have a mother or a father, or an uncle, a brother, or somebody that is.
Yes.
And that's if you get the information to those people, they can pass it on to people who might not watch your channel, or might not even know that YouTube exists. So it's really good to see that your subject matter being not so boilerplate, just like, hey, a super buff trained guy against an adversary.
Right.
That's gone over a lot too, and we're not all those guys. Many of us are just. I've done a little kung fu with my brother, but I'm not trained. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
That's good. Well, it's awesome that you can recognize that, because one of the biggest problems that we face in the world is most guys, and they don't like to hear this, but most guys overestimate their abilities. I mean, I think that's something we all do it unintentionally. We want to believe that we're all, lions. We all want to think we're capable, but the big joke going around is the big joke in the jiu-jitsu community is the guys who talk about how when I see red, it's over. Y'all heard that, but when I see red, it's over.
Right.
No, it doesn't matter if you see red. You can see red, and then you can see the back of your eyelids. So,
Right.
Yeah, the light coming through your eylids.
It could be kind of
red.
Right. Somebody can choke you and make you really red. And I think it's great to have that honest assessment. But you know what? I'll say this: even with all the training I've been through in my life, I still am very much aware of my limitations, very much aware of capabilities that I don't have, and I know how low I am on the food chain in life without equalizers, without weapons. And I got a video coming out very soon talking about the ultimate reason why I love weapons, and that's because it's really the only way any of us can stay high up on the food chain. Because if we start having to go equal for equal, we find out really quick just how minuscule we are in the world. There's guys out there, no matter how long I've trained, there's guys out there that could put me in a suitcase and sail me down the river, and I'm aware of that, but I train, and that's the journey of training and getting stronger and better is never going to do you wrong. It's always going to make you a little better.
And you talking about, people who you can trust, people to look out for that might be untrustworthy. These are things that we can all use and we can all be better at. Even someone who's a very good judge of character, can become better. And so you concentrating on those things certainly is what interested me in your channel. And I think you're doing something that no one that I know of is doing. You really do make it a practical thing to learn and situational awareness, not just training with a weapon, but also training yourself how to think, how to approach things. Is really crucial today in this world, especially with crazy people being attacked for apparently no reason. We're not all on a hair trigger all the time, but we can practice having a little bit more awareness, which you talk about in some of your videos, which is really appreciated from a viewer standpoint.
One of the views that I've come to by an outfit that I trained with a fair bit on the West Coast, Greg Hamilton's Insights Training Center. They've got priorities of training in their system, and they deal primarily with firearms. And you'd think that pretty high up on their priorities of training would be firearms proficiency, but it's actually not. The number one priority is mindset, and the number two priority is tactics. how you comport yourself through the world in a way that's going to give you a quantifiable advantage in that arena of conflict. And then the third priority is the tool itself and how you use it. And I always liked that because it put the emphasis away from this magic thing. You know, people have this idea they're going to get that ultimate firearm or that ultimate knife or the ultimate whatever, and all their problems are going to be solved just because they have it. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
right?
The problems are just starting when you get the tool.
Yeah, in fact, you just might have made your problems bigger
Right.
by having something that you don't really even know how to use that well, and you don't know how to comport yourself in the world and how to think, as a brother just said. So I really liked that shift that you started to make, because it really puts it squarely in those other two priorities, which are much more important, right? Mindset is, you don't have mindset, I don't care how damn good you are with your tool,
Right.
you're not going to be able to put it to good use. And if you can't give yourself an advantage in some sort of a conflict, like a quantifiable advantage, either a spatial one or some other kind of advantage, that's what tactics do for you, right? So I love that you're focusing on both of those things, because it's not just, awareness and tactical behavior, but it's also, where is your mind at? What is your greatest weapon is this. And I'm really happy to see you working on those things in your content.
That's great. I'm doing different types of things. A lot of times sometimes I'll revisit something that I already have talked about before, maybe just from another angle. But Saturdays I've been typically, for the most part, using to talk about what y'all were just referencing. People fight fights of every kind every day. And that's one of the things, and you had touched in on that, Chaz, and you too as well, John. I had started thinking, that the fight that we fight in life is so much more than the assailant. It's so much more than the people that could, mug us, kill us. We fight fights every day with coworkers we got weird relationships with, battles that we face in our own mind. And there's so many strategies to living life. There's so many cheat codes that are available to us if we have a certain level of wisdom. And that's really what I wanted to devote Saturdays to, was helping people to grow in wisdom, how to deal with a number of things. Like maybe it could be a seriously controlling individual in your life, different things like that. A lot of people need to know how to fight those battles and be empowered in situations. You could be in an extremely abusive relationship of some sort, or certain personalities you don't want to get involved with to begin with. And again, all of this stuff has come from hard lessons learned. I guarantee you, if I've ever done a video on something, it's been on something I've probably experienced or an area where I've been burned. And if you can walk away from that fire and come through it and tell others how to get through it, that is really the difference maker. I think that's what's been the difference maker altogether. And it's a lot of freedom in being able to be who you are to your audience. Not just known for one single thing, but for them to start to see your humanity a little bit. I started gradually talking more about the self-defense aspect of the weapons, because that's the martial artist in me. And then I was like, you know what? I think we can go one step further now and start telling people how to defend themselves and what to look out for. And then it just kept going one step further. I was like, you know what? I think I can start talking to people about how to stay healthy here and how to fight these other kinds of wars that we fight mentally. And it's just been so much fun. It's been so much fun how that's evolved.
Hey, didn't you, I think I remember you making a video once about making the distinction between self-defense as a term and self-protection.
Yes.
Am I right about that? Will you talk a little bit about that and what you mean by that?
Absolutely. Self-defense versus self-protection. I've gleaned from a lot of guys in the field. I definitely believe in gleaning. And Tim Larkin in particular really got me thinking a lot about that. He wrote the book When Violence is the Answer. It's a really, really great book. Well done. It gives you a lot of good understanding. And I noticed that throughout the book, he was using the term self-protection a lot. And I liked it a lot better because self-protection seemed to represent something that was a lot more proactive and a lot more aggressive in the moment. if you're always on the defense, that is a very dangerous thing, because some of the greatest defenses are offenses, the good offense. And I'm taking violence of action into that situation to neutralize that threat to the best of my ability. So that's a form of self-protection versus self-defense. A lot of times self-defense, we just think about being reactive a lot of times. And the bad part about being reactive is action. This is the key thing to remember. I think this sums it all up. Action is so much faster than reaction. And that's the problem. That's why assailants often have the upper hand, is because action is faster than reaction. So
and if you're acting, on someone and someone is just reacting and defending themselves, the person who is, actually assailing is controlling the situation. If all you do is react, and all it would take is one poor reaction for you to be in real deep trouble. So that's a really interesting thought process, and makes a lot of sense on the self-protection, because sometimes that means, this is a threat to me. I'm not going to wait for this threat to, back me into a corner. Here's my line. That's it. After that, then I'm the assailant. I mean, technically, I will go and be aggressive to protect myself and not just react to defend myself. That's a really crucial point in the thought process of that. That's really interesting, actually.
And I think it shows that language matters in the whole training thing. And that I've done a fair bit of training myself, and I try to pay very close attention to the language that I use and how I frame things up for myself, because language is going to establish the guardrails in your own mind for what is acceptable, unacceptable. And if you've got language that inhibits you to your disadvantage, as as a good guy, theoretical good guy, that's not what you want. That's not what I want for my students or for myself. So I think your ideas around using self-protection versus self-defense are totally valid, and I like them.
Yes, sir. I got to thinking about something one day, and I did a little exercise, and y'all both have probably been in a situation like this before at some point in your life. You ever been in a situation where you felt like you may have to fight to defend yourself, or you may have to fight your way out? And it's a terrible feeling if you don't, when you don't want to fight, there's this terrible feeling that comes over you. It's almost like a crippling feeling of nerves that can come in and make you feel fearful and powerless. And it's very crippling. I tell people this: the first thing that's going to happen when you don't feel right is you're going to lose your breath. You got to take your breath immediately. You got to get your breath going again. Because when somebody starts to feel afraid or threatened, their breathing is automatically gets thrown off, and you almost hold your breath because you get afraid. And it's that feeling you get when you drive past a state trooper too fast. You've been there. It's that same.
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened.
It's
not in Montana, man. You can go 100 here, no one cares. Unless you're in town and you have to be 15. That's it.
And it's a beautiful sunny day and you're vibing with the radio and you drive past him and you just know he's going to get you. And it's that feeling that you have from that point that I'm screwed. He's coming after me. Well, it's very similar sometimes when you feel like you might be in an encounter or somebody's coming up on you and you're thinking, oh crap. Well, you got a very short amount of time to breathe and breathe, accept, and commit. You have to breathe, you have to accept that this is happening, and you have to commit to your survival. It takes that level of tenacity to really have violence. Violence is not bad. It just depends on who's using it and why they're using it. And I think that's what a lot of people think violence is a bad thing. No, like Larkin said in his book, when violence is the answer, it's the only answer. It's rare that violence will be needed, but when it is needed, it's the only answer to, and it takes a certain level of commitment. And a lot of people think that they're going to be able to defend themselves being under so much fear and not wanting this to happen. And sometimes it's going to happen no matter what. You have to commit to a certain
I think you're
level.
right.
Yeah. No, none of us wants to be there. That's for sure.
So tell us a little bit more about your vision for the future of the channel.
Yeah,
You're closing in on like 200,000 subscribers, I think, on YouTube. Just really pretty
Really,
impressive.
really excited. Yeah.
Where's it going to go from here?
Well, a big part of the future has just recently taken place, being able to partner with Fisher Blades, be able to partner with y'all. I was telling my friend Lucas today, we were going out to lunch, and he's so excited about this partnership. He said, "Man, can you think of any better partnership than the one you got?" I said, "No, not with my passion for self-protection and my passion for blades. And these guys at Fisher Blades share the same vision." And like I said, I've used this gear. I'm so passionate about this gear, and I've been passionate for so long that it's like you feel like you're partnering with somebody that you've known forever, in a sense, you know. So I'm looking forward to collaborations with Fisher Blades to help get your awesome brand out there and collaborate on a lot of various scenarios. So y'all are my first real sponsorship. I get a lot of emails every day talking about sponsorship and affiliation, but really they just want me to pimp their products from overseas, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, I got tired of that. And you got people emailing you about when the video is coming out for a video that's going to get, 500 views because nobody knows what that thing is, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm looking forward to deeper levels of partnership and focus with like Fisher Blades, continuing to do a lot of the content that I'm doing now. But my children are getting older. I've got a daughter that's graduating this year, and I'm going to come into a time where I don't feel the need to be at home as much. I'm looking forward to broadening my content and my message at more offsite locations. Being creative with offsite locations, maybe doing things like an overnight camp somewhere where I'm talking about the same things, but I'm involving the experience of the overnight camp. Maybe it's a testing of the gear of some sort, or having a conversation around the fire, just a real setting. Just continuing to do what I'm doing and continue building on that, because I really like the pattern I have. I feel like I've finally figured out the vision, with gear, mental life strategies, and self-protection. I feel like I've got a place to put all of my efforts and passion, and just looking forward to that, looking forward to our partnership, because, y'all are the blades I carry. You're the brand that I'm happy to stand behind, and good people to work with. And
we appreciate you've been great to work with.
Yeah, we feel the same way. And, again, one of the things I think both of us love so much about you is the knowledge and not just looking at just the surface, getting deeper into it, because that's really fulfilling. It's one thing to have a cool tool and even be able to use it, but when you think more about the reason for having this tool, why have it, how to use it, all these things, it really, it does fall into line with our philosophy about knives, is to not make a cool looking knife just because it looks cool, really just intent, like what are you using that knife for, and how to use it.
Right.
I mean, it may seem simplistic to people to ask, well, you have to tell people how to use a knife? Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you can't just stop at the product. You have to explain how to use it and why it's the way it is. So we really appreciate where you're coming from, and I feel like it's a very natural partnership between us and you. So
I've reviewed a lot of people's gear. I've reviewed knives for companies, and but they just nobody invested in 411 Outdoors like y'all have, and not only in providing what I've been looking for, but also the like-mindedness, the ideas and everything. I bought so many knives. You don't know how many knives I bought looking for something like this. And people are like, man,
Daniel, let me tell you, I was looking for a knife so much that I became a knife maker. That's how a lot of knife makers are born. Like they look and they buy and they go, damn it, why can't I just, can't someone make what I want? And then you get the bright idea, well, I'm just going to make it myself.
Right.
And then you go down that damn rabbit hole, and here we are.
I mean, yeah, I'm like bending around. I'm like, I feel this blade. I feel it. It's digging in. And I buy stuff and I'm like, I thought this was the one, you know, and then you buy one and the handle's jabbing you. I found pocket carrier handle's jabbing you. And then I get my hands on this claw, you know, and like, it's just a part of me every day. It's the claws nature didn't give me. And, I know there's some conversations like we were talking a while back about an even more upgraded Beckwith, you know, in between kind of. I appreciate y'all seeing the value of the channel. I've got other guys on YouTube that I'm really close with, such as Choir Boys Cutlery Outdoors. I love Scab, awesome guy.
Yeah. Scab and Joe are good guys.
Joe, I was getting ready to say Joe, man, the steel mindset, you know, those guys, the same. We did a podcast together one time back early in the year. I've made some really good friends on here who've seen the value of the channel, including yourself. But you know, I have 200,000 subscribers, and I could probably count the people on one hand who saw the value in it, and we went a step further with it. You know, so it's wild. You just have to keep digging and believing in your brand. The right people are eventually going to find out about you, and that's how it goes. And I'm looking forward to just doing more and more of what I'm already doing.
There was a time when people started companies or channels, and it was more than just about becoming popular and making money. It was also, you know, I guess kind of a responsibility to make the world a better place with your product or service. Not just make money or make your customers happy, but actually, you know, contribute to society in some way that, you know, that you can. And we feel like we try to do that, and you certainly do too. So it's we're definitely like-minded in that way, and we appreciate that from you. You know, and it's also not, you know, we make, I think, a great knife, but knives are like, you know, women.
Yeah.
Some people like, you know, redheads, some people like blondes, some people don't care. There's preferences important too, and we talk about that.
Speaking of women,
oh boy, here we go. Oh God.
This will be wife approved. That was another problem that I mean, I'm just going to be transparent. You know, the first 3 years of my YouTube channel from 2021 to 2024, man, it was just a dude fest. You know,
right.
I wasn't making any connections with women. And now, because of the situational awareness videos and the life strategies, I've got all these precious, kind-hearted women that continue to comment, and they come in there. Thank you for this, Daniel. Thank you. This is helping me so much. And I'm like, man, this is what it's all about. I've got the whole world in this.
Does your wife know about this female fan club of yours?
She does. She does. And every now and then I'm like, hey, honey, this one right here says I'm easy on the eyes. So, you know, look at
yeah. See how good you have it? Undesirable.
Honey, just remember that I'm the man, okay? I'm kidding.
I'm still looking for my female fan club. I don't see it materializing, but there's always some hope. I got Clayton. I got Clayton until then. I got you, buddy.
I've got my little Cavapoo in her crate for a little while, taking a nap right now. She doesn't spend much time in there because my oldest daughter is pretty much here with her most of the time. You know, I've got daughters that one that goes to school at home. So if that Cavapoo was in here, I don't know if you know much about that breed. I wouldn't be able to get this podcast done because they're so needy for attention. She'd be hanging over this chair right here, looking at me the whole time with the whites of her eyes, like, you know,
right.
You know what I mean? When are you going to be done? And when are we going to play? Making little sounds. I got to put her away to take a nap so I can have this podcast. I'm looking forward to coming out to Montana. I know we talked about that a little bit.
Sir.
Anything else you want to say before we kind of wrap it up?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for giving me a chance to just share where the channel's going and share. I'm glad you got me to go back even further in the beginning to, you know, where it all got started. You know, I come from a simple place, and I think a lot of people, when they watch my content, know that I'm a simple man. I'm down to earth. I'm not really connected to a lot of the noise of today. I avoid it on purpose so I can think clearly and live peacefully, and you know, and I'm bringing that message out here to the world, and having a really, really good time doing it. And it's becoming exactly what I set out for, and which is a career. A lot of people get into YouTube to be hobbyists. And if you're a hobbyist on YouTube, God bless you. That's it's a fun thing to do. I got on YouTube to make a living. I got on here to make a living and doing what I love. There's nothing better in life than waking up in the morning and being excited about what you do. Heck, I'm so excited about making videos that I sometimes can't sleep the last couple of hours of the morning. I'm waking up, I'm like, man, I have ideas brewing. I got to get up and start jotting stuff down. That's a good problem to have. That's a
great problem to have. And
wake up excited.
You're not wearing corrective lenses right now, my brother and I each are, so I can't really even call you four eyes or anything, but I'm really glad you had that vision problem in junior high or whenever it was and couldn't catch the fly ball, because otherwise, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here with you as a major league player or something. That's cool. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to having you here in Montana, where you can tie me up in a pretzel and choke me out, and we can trade some tips on how to striking tips and some blade tips. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Daniel, I absolutely condone any kind of cheap shots against my brother. I can tell you some stories about some cheap shots he's given me.
Yeah, lies. So, they're all damn lies.
Don't worry, I got your back, man. If you know, if I have a gun on the sidelines, the great equalizer.
That's very reassuring.
We're really excited to be working with you and partnering with you, man. You've got a great career ahead of you. I just know it, and we're really happy to be a part of it, and can't wait to help get your message out. So,
right on, my friend, and likewise.
Well, Daniel Irving, thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
All right.